welcome everybody to the Breach Burnt podcast faction overview for the 10 Thunders. The video here today is not to deep dive into anything specific, but overall give you a general essence of how these crews are going to play in 4th edition. And if you're brand new to Malifaux, what type of feel they're going to have to them, what kind of aesthetic does the crew have if you haven't seen them on the box, that sort of thing. So this is a general overview of the 10 Thunders. They have a very Eastern aesthetic. It ranges from multiple countries. Um, you have the samurai, you have some mythic folk tales from the Asian area, and it also brings a pack of strong female masters. In fact, they have probably some of the best masters in the game currently as of the GG0. And not only being strong, there are a lot of them. So if you're looking for a female driven crew, they are here for you now. Some of them might be ninjas, some of them might be librarians, and maybe some of them are ladies of the evening and run some shady things. But they do have that presence which you don't find sometimes in other tabletop games, which is a great thing that I think Weird brings to the table. And in fact, the 10 Thunders. 10 Thunders are going to be, compared to other factions, they used to be kind of toolboxy and you had a bit of everything no matter where you went. This edition, that trend kind of continues. I think they have, because of their versatile models, the ability to be competitive with whatever master you pick. However, their strengths really rely mostly in their mobility and their movement shenanigans. We have access to Last Blossom, Key and Gong, Red Library, Oni. All of these have amazing movement shenanigans. Foundry has some movement shenanigans. Even the Honeypot keyword has out of keyword movement, although it's been very toned down with the auras and stuff, so he isn't doing as much. Um, they do run the gambit. You're going to have your summoner. You're going to have every of the archetypes that you'll find within 10 Thunders. And honestly, they have some of the best looking models, in my opinion. If you're not going for creepy, scary, evil demons and things from the Neverborn keyword, the 10 Thunders bring in a diverse, really beautiful set of models. If you can freehand paint, they have a lot of robes and silk. They got magical effects. They have the Yasunori model, which we'll talk about when we get to the versatiles and dragons. So there is a lot to offer from the hobby side as well for the 10 Thunders. There are currently 7, going to be 8, so I'll eventually have to edit this, but they will be getting an additional master as 4th edition goes on. Just a little bit less about them before we dive into them. The 10 Thunders themselves are run by Misaki Katanaka. She's the Oyuban and kind of overall leader of the 10 Thunders faction. And unlike some of the other factions, their stories tend to all fall in line with being part of that organization. For a shout out for a lot of their lore, I would send you over to Defective Dice. Make sure you check them out because they can give you the rundown on everything, and then hop right back into Weird's Breach Side broadcast and dive into some of the great stories because they have been around for a very long time, and there's a number of stories in the Breach Side broadcast that deal with everyone's favorite 10 Thunders masters. But without ado, let's start diving into the keywords. Let's start off with the Last Blossom keyword, Misaki Katanaka, the Oyuban herself, and all of her crew. The Last Blossom keyword is going to revolve around the use of shadow markers for their crew cards and their crew mechanics. Shadow markers themselves are not going to be too much of a hindrance to your opponent during the Oyuban side. They are going to be used for you to jump around to. You're able to pop from one to another. They will come and go pretty quickly. And while on the fractured side, the shadow markers are going to be considered hazardous burning. You get to drop a bunch of them out early on. You make less of them. And instead of you wanting to go to and pop around and flit around the board, she uses them in a controlling manner to bring your opponent to them and misplace your opponent. Uh, they are either side of the coin being all about movement and hit and run tactics. The crew is designed with stealth and mobility in mind. Um, they can hit and run. In fact, the fractured keyword actually has the hit and run keyword ability, which is this model ends its activation. It may drain a soul stone to declare the walk action, ignoring engagement. Um, so they are going to be the ones that do not like to stay and fight. They like to scalpel things out. The Oyuban title of Masaki actually has irreducible damage. She's got leap aside and a few things to really help her out. She's got diving charge. Um, like I said, hit and run mechanics. The Torakage are the schemers of the crew. They're slightly more expensive at 6. A lot of schemers come in at 5. But they do have the grappling hook, and they are speed 7 and expert climber with that little bit of defense tech of stealth. So again, they are very good at popping around the board. If you want something a little more tanky, you do have to look to Ban Ying. Latoto, it can be tanky, but he is going to need to watch his activation and not go early on, because if he goes early, he can't, then turn around and heal himself with his unyielding resolve. And Juggernaut, keeping things at 3 damage, only goes so far when you have 5 stats. So like I said, again, not the ones that want to stand and fight, but they do really love to take the fight to the opponent and then move away. Some other shout outs in the crew: the Katanaka snipers have from Shadow, which allows them to be deployed anywhere they want. Turn 1 outside of 2 inches of a strategy marker or the enemy deployment zone. At 5 cost, these are actually even decently considered out of keyword if you're looking for something later on, because of the fact that they can be deployed in positions early enough to score right away for turn 1. Great for plant, great for setting up runic or harness the ley lines for the schemes, great for being on top of terrain for scout the rooftops. So snipers are kind of that linchpin of early activation. Now, be careful with from shadows of putting them too close to your opponent, as the snipers have no defense tech to speak of. They are 5/5s and they're just sitting up on top. Yamaziko is in this crew as well. We haven't mentioned her. She has extended reach. She does have some defensive things, and then her signature being logistics is only adding to that mobility of the keyword. It's a 6-inch range, but the target's move at speed and then gain an adaptable token or remove an adaptable to ignore the terrain while moving, which can be amazing if you're having to deal with severe terrain, because the one thing that this crew doesn't have is flight, so severe terrain can still be an issue. The 2 totems are not bad. You're going to have the one Yudo and Shang. Shang goes with the Oyuban. He is going to be a healer and a setup piece, getting your shadow markers into place, while the one Yudo is actually a decent beating machine. He comes with a base 3 damage and can get around the board pretty quickly. However, he's going to really be needed to keep the control going, so you don't want to overextend that beater when you're going with Wilting Tsubaki. Wilting Tsubaki side, or the fractured Masaki, is very much control oriented, while the Oyuban is damage dealing and jumping around the board. I know I've mentioned that before, but how she does that is she is the quintessential obey master, and she can remove burning off of enemies with an 8 to have their actions fail. And the one Yudo is one of the ways of getting that burning out and kind of keeping it out that direction. Because enemies near the Wanyudo do not remove their burning after resolving, so it allows you to give a chance to like pull that off to get the action to fail. So again, you have a very controlling style master with Fractured, and then the Oyaban side, Smoke and Shadows, very high mobility, doesn't like to stand in place. Jumping into the Honeypot keyword, Jacob Lynch. It is a very dark sub theme to this keyword. So if you're not familiar with Jacob Lynch and his big pal, the Hungering Darkness, it is themed around brilliance. Brilliance is excessively addictive and deteriorates. One might call it the drug of choice for many people who work at the casino and in and around the casino. The keyword is named after the namesake Honeypot Casino, which is ran by Jacob Lynch. Getting back to the keyword mechanic of brilliance, brilliance is going to be both offense and defensive. However, I do believe it is best used defensively, and that is because it is a heal 2 whenever you cheat. So that heal when you cheat combined at the right time. So maybe you're not going to want to cheat the first attack, but you're going to let them hit you. You're going to cheat over it the second they're going to miss, and then you're going to heal back up. So timing that heal and that cheating with brilliance is going to make this crew excessively durable compared to other keywords. On the offensive side, yes, putting it out there is going to ping them 1 damage when they cheat. However, it's going to be better used offensively for obeys and some special uses off of your crew cards. The Honeypot is very much on both sides a bubble encounter style crew. They're going to want to kind of be near each other because they're going to want to keep that brilliance going. And if they're outside of too far from each other or running independently, you're not going to be able to get that synergy to really keep that brilliance up. They can do probably any strategy. However, I think they excel with informants and recover evidence. And that is because they are durable and they are not a crew you want to come in at. And if you do have to actually come in at them, they do have some movement shenanigans, and they do have lures as well with the beckoners. So that's why I think they excel at those ones. Some further diving into the high level stuff of the crew is Wildcard. One of the two versions of the title is going to be heavy on the rig the deck mechanic that, if you're familiar with M3E, is a twist on what he used to be with being that gambler, that card shark. He is going to bring one of the best triggers into the game, which is Mulligan, being able to reset your hand, do damage, and get some ski markers out there. It does cost a stone, but it is something you're going to want to save stones for at all possible every turn. Just expect that if you brought 5 stones, you have 1 stone, maybe 2, because you're going to be wanting to hit with Compulsive Gambler and reset your hand as needed. The rig the deck that he gets with the keyword as well takes a stone, and that's just looking at the top 3 cards of your own fate deck, discarding 1 and resetting the other. So again, stones are very useful in this keyword, and they are to give you that card advantage. It isn't as great with Jacob Lynch Dark Bet. He is going to be more of a damage dealer than Jacob Lynch, or at least a simple-minded damage dealer. He is going to want to get up there and murder. He does have Luck Thief and some other kind of cool abilities, but he's going to not bring that card hand pressure alleviation that Jacob Lynch Wildcard does. Overall, the crew does have some other benefits that keep the hand pressure on the opponent. You are looking at a lot of defense tech in this crew. Looking them over, they should have, I think every single model has some sort of defense tech on it. Whether it's Serene Countenance, there's Terrifying on multiple models, Luck Thief, Incorporeal. Some models have multiple. There's Armor in the crew. The Illuminated being cost 6 and kind of being your scheme runner for the crew because of their tactical action. Still have Terrifying. which makes them kind of a piece of a dick to deal with, especially if you leave them over near concealing terrain or throw an aura concealment with the effigy on them. Who wants to be hitting it, trying to hit on double negs at a 6 cost model? Yeah, they're only defense willpower 5, but double negs, it's going to create that hand pressure on the opponent that you yourself aren't going to have to deal with. Um, Kitty Demont is your like unique scheme runner. You have Mr. Tannen, who's the MVP of the crew. If you are not familiar with him, get familiar with him. He is your healer. He is your brilliance man. He is your setup piece. Keep him alive at all costs if you're playing the game, and become very well aware of what he can do. Last couple of shout outs, Gwyneth Maddox is in the crew. She is very independent with her hit the jackpot signature. She doesn't draw a lot of cards out of your hand. She kind of doesn't need any. And then Mr. Graves is going to be your tank model. And then it's kind of fill in as you like. Overall, I think this is extremely good crew. If you want that gambling, dark sub theme of addiction and things, or just a great crew to play, and it's highly competitive. Let's talk about everyone's cute and cuddly trash goblin friends, the Akaname and the Oni keyword. The Oni keyword is going to rely on a couple of key crew mechanics, one being rift markers, and the other is summoning. Um, Starting off with the rift markers, they in of themselves are going to not do anything to your opponent. However, their innate ability is that when a friendly Oni within 1, they remove the marker to do +1 to the attack damage. So innately, they can just give extra damage. However, the unique aspects of the two versions are going to be where they really shine. The Shintaku version is going to create an excess amount of healing for your crew. Their keycard ability is actually Healing Void. It is once per activation, but it is a heal 3 when you move near one of these markers and remove it from the table. 3 healing is huge in this edition when most heals are 1 or 2 and costing a stone. This is going to bring a lot of durability to the crew. On the other side of things, Hunger's Reach and Oni Mother, you're going to be using your Rift markers for offensive sneak attacks. Um, you're allowed to, once per activation, declare your melee actions within 8 from line of sight of that, so you can help get around some cover or just get around some distance. You can take random charge actions and still be there and then remove the marker and attack through it. So it's going to give you attacking from all angles and very offensive minded on Oni Mother's side. Speaking of the summoning, Oni Mother herself is the best-ish summoner in the game, meaning she is the only summoner in the game that can summon 6 minions in one activation. They're all her separate minions. She can technically get every single one of them in one action. Or not one action, but one activation. Now, not all of them are going to be amazing, and you're not going to want all of them every turn, but that is an option. Special shout out, though, to summoning the yokai, which, because of their abilities, they can suffer 2 damage to instead not gain slow. So they're going to get that extra AP still when they get summoned, and they have an action to make another model interact by killing themselves. And if they're summoned, oh well, they killed themselves. They weren't going to be able to interact, and because of Flicker, which is what every single Oni model is going to come in with when you summon it, they would die anyways. This is going to make a sneaky out of activation interact for Oni Mother. On the Shintaku side, she gets to summon the unique models, which is unique. I think she's the only summoner who gets to actually summon any and all of her unique models, including her totem. Now, usually, I've been finding she is not going to be wanting to do summoning on the regular. However, shout out to the Wonder Weasel, as he is an amazing little summon because the Rejuvenate Oni action, his tact is a signature that can heal models and gets positives if they're near rift markers. His also Dust Devil action is kind of amazing as well because it moves and makes rift gates and whatnot. So moving on to the keyword overall, they have a lot of flexibility, as I mentioned, because they have scheme runners with the Tengu. You have yokai, which can still get in around with their signature bounce around to own models. You have a lot of offensive movement shenanigans. Story of Suzaku is a dual keyword, and that has um, some options there with the Wind's Wrath, which is unresistible. Um, and it has Flare Feather. It's kind of an up we go action and placing within 3, so it's got built in heave. Um, it has their henchman has Hunting Song. The other henchman has Coil Around Prey. So there is a fair amount of offensive type of moving that this keyword can bring. I mean, Oni Mother herself comes with Demonic Tresses, which is just move the target 6 inches, and then, coordinated attack trigger or cocooned hair trigger. So they bring so much to the table that I think they're going to be great after those 2 or 3 games because they have too much to do. You're going to want to take some time to really understand what they can do. It's going to be a higher level of play that you're going to need. You can have fun with them right away, but to really get the most out of them, it's going to take a few more reps than some of the other keywords, especially getting the most out of the healing, the summoning, jump in with Oni Mother, start summoning models, see what you like, see what you get out of it. But with Shintaku, getting used to having her tank damage with her A Mother's Love action is going to be your focus of really getting the best out of the keyword. Um, with that, though, I think they are actually one of the best keywords currently in the game. So I would say give them a try and find out what you like about them. On to the monk keyword. Aesthetically speaking, if you love to see muscle bound, shirtless dudes in the table, this is what you're going to want to play. And there is a lot to unpack with the monk keyword, so we're going to break it down kind of step by step with 4 Shenlongs and his disciples. First off, they have the chi mechanic as part of their shtick. The chi mechanic is simply you get to remove a chi token before performing a duel to add +1 to your duel total, or basically your skill or defense. What that can do for you is, since this keyword already comes with high attack offense skills, usually hitting those skill 6s and even skill 7s on the master and the henchman, you can bump that up to a skill 8 basically and make your opponents weep and cry, as they have a defense 5 model and you have a 3 numerical advantage over them. They also have, on the other side, okay defense stats, which the chi helps out with as well because it is just +2 your defense total. And then there are a few special cases in throughout the keyword where you'll want to remove the chi to for special effects. They have the fighting styles as well. The fighting styles bring a lot of utility to the keyword. They both give attack and defense oriented things, so you'll have to be very picky on who these get. So if you're dropping them around with the teacher version, who can spread them to all of your models other than your master, you'll want to be picky and choosy who those go to. With the Shenlong Dragon's Breath version, he will be the only one popping in and out of those styles. So that is a little bit of difference. Shenlong the Teacher, you're going to be spreading out the wealth of the upgrades, while Shenlong Dragon's Breath is more, I am the man, I'm going to beat your face in with everything and everything. A little bit more about those. Each style does come with usually 2 types of abilities on each card. There's a very defensive healing one. The Fermented style has a butterfly jump and just gives some extra speed out. The High River style is very much the Flaming Dragon. I'm going to burn your face off, but also can give out some burning if you get attacked. and the Wandering is your movement shenanigans with the Four Winds Punch and Enlightened Leap. The keyword comes with a host of memorable models to keep an eye on. They do have access to Ban Ying and the Sunless Selves. Um, he can be extremely tanky, especially when you start getting those Sunless Selves out there to soak up some damage. And then the teacher version, he can be given upgrades as well. The Lotus Eaters, as a shout out, have not seen much play if you've been following Malifaux for a while. However, now with Expert Climber and Path of the Lotus for their signature, they are pretty mobile at cost 5 and have some great utility to them. They also are a way to pump out cheat tokens to models over and over again, so they don't have to spend their own actions to get them. The keyword overall is extremely toolboxy. It has a lot of things going for it. It can be defensive if you need it to be defensive. It can be play pretty aggressive. The Thunder Archers have target practice on them, which is amazing for anti-scheming. Just in general, this is going to be a very strong keyword that can play into pretty much every strat because of its options, and then also can stand and take a little bit of a beating and dish it right back out. Shenlong Dragon's Breath is not the extreme beater that he has been. He has been toned down slightly to give him more mobility and options. Shenlong the Teacher is definitely still the utility version of Shenlong. Other than that, that is it for the monk keyword. Shout out to the river monks, I guess, for one last thing. The Catch the Blade action, which is very unique, says that when an enemy model declares a melee action against them, this model may drain a soulstone. If it does, the action suffers a double negative, and if it fails, the attacking model is dealt 2 damage. So if you really need them to live, considering they have threatening demeanor as well, and then Catching the Blade, they love to be up there and engaging enemy models and just causing havoc. The Soulstone use in this crew is very demanding. So make sure you are knowing exactly where you're going to want to spend these stones. There's a lot of options. And it's going to be where the higher level play for the monk keyword is knowing where to use your stones. Need to take a break from all the killing and murder that happens in Malifaux. Need to just relax for a while with a hot bath. Welcome to the Key and Gong, run by Yuoko Hamasaki. The keyword itself is going to have a very much feel and aesthetic based on the Key and Gong, its namesake establishment. Yuoko is the patron of the establishment and the master of the crew. The crew itself is going to be based on the Entranced token. So Entranced is when this model's actions that target a friendly model cannot be cheated. After this model resolves an action targeting a friendly model, remove the token. And both titles are going to kind of have a gameplay based around Entranced. With Silk of the Lotus Yuoko, you're going to be very much trying to spam as much Entranced as possible, as it gets you a increase to your power bar every time you do, and once it is full, you get access to the tactical action We Own You, which has no flip needed, just an 8-inch range that all king models gain, and it is reduce it by 4, so get rid of all of your power, and target declares an action chosen and controlled by this model. So it is a non-obey that cannot be resisted. It is a tactical, so you can do yours or an opponent's model as needed, but it is an extremely powerful ability that comes when you fill the power bar. Switching over to Yuoko Unseen, on the other hand, she is mobility, and more mobility. And did I mention moving around versus mobility? So she has the Whispered Lies that is attached to her crew card, which is after resolving an attack against this model with an Entranced token, was removed from the attacker. this model may move the attacker up to 4 inches. So there's a lot of steps to there, but in general, it is defensive movement that comes with the crew card. The tactical action is pretty good as well. It does cost a stone, but it allows you to kind of rig the deck a little bit. We already mentioned that a little bit. They cut down a lot on deck manipulation in 4th edition, but she still has a little bit of it. They are definitely a scheming over killing crew that is amazingly beautiful on the table. Between all the silk robes, if you can hand paint, I'll tell you, the Kabuki Warriors, Yasunori, Hinamatsu build, they all look amazing. Even Charm Warders, and that they have such an amazing aesthetic that sometimes you can really feel the fluff when they are using lure or entrancing you. But that scheming and control style gameplay is what they go for instead of murder machine. They do have some base 3 damage with Bill and Hinamatsu. However, their minions are going to be capping out at a base 2 damage. Even their high cost Kabuki Warriors, which can get around the table and move, but they still base 2 on that Odachi that they use. Their biggest asset, like I said, is going to be that mobility, both offensively and for your own models. Being able to bring Yasunori into the crew as not a versatile, being an ally. He's got Fan of the Storm and some other movement tricks. The Bunraku have Onward built in, and if there's 2 of them, they get a lower target number for them if they're nearby. Yoko Unseen has Gather Intel on her card, moving your own models and doing some extra stuff. And she has an ability to bounce around, and as she damages models, she can do a lot. Or when she dies, she also can pop to one of her other Kunoichi. Very flavorful. She gets 3 of them. So if you want a lot of totems, there you go. It is also note that the Kunoichi come with To the Rooftops, which is pretty decent. They can get around a little bit. They are Arcane Reservoir, which is also not bad. Expert Climber. They're only 5 wounds, but kind of their signature issue is the Lookout ability on their front of their card, which is after an enemy model resolves an attack action that targeted an ally at a lower elevation, in line of sight of this model, they may drain a soulstone to place the ally within 6 inches. So again, some defensive tech, being able to be like, nope, you can't, you charge, so now I'm going to pop over here and play a little controlling defensive style gameplay. I would say the Ki and Gong are amazing for plant explosives and for boundary dispute because they can get to where they need to be, they can interact, and then move on without having to do too much of that combat. So super flavorful, super fluffy, maybe based on an establishment of ill repute, but the Ki and Gong are definitely a control style, very schemy, hard to deal with crew. Jumping off the shelves, coming at you next is the Red Library and Story keywords. Both of these keywords take on a mythological type of librarian aesthetic. So you're going to have Sun Wukong, Story of Raijin, Story of Suzaku, some amazing models mixed in with the calligrapher and some very bookkeepery librarian type models. They do also include what some people think are the cutest little additions, the book lights, which can be found with Linlai Bibliothecary and on Maps models, which are adorable little tiny things that shine light to help you see. But moving on from the aesthetics, these keywords play around with scheme markers. Schemes, and more schemes. We'll start off with Linlai Bibliothecary, who is more predominantly scheming. All it takes is a quick gander at her card to see that she has on herself the ability to help further the range of interact actions for models that share her keyword of red library. And then looking at the crew card, All non-story red live models also gain Search the Stacks, which is a ranged once per activation ability to make a scheme marker and possibly draw a card if you get a raise. So just off of that, those two abilities alone, you can see that they love their schemes. Um, kind of switching it into why schemes are so good with this crew. We'll take a look at the story of Raijin, which is the probably one of the MVPs for the crew. Um, just him alone having Middle of the Storm to give concealing, electric fields to make scheme markers hazardous to the enemy, and then Thunderstruck with the Tome trigger. This is the bread and butter of the keyword, which is why you want to, in either side, make sure Raijin dies or Raijin stays alive. If you got a hand where you can get him an adaptable token or keep a couple of tomes around, his Thunderstruck ability to make a scheme marker within 6 inches, which is what the other, most can do with Bibliocary, but this also pulses out a defense tool, and then within it, that'd be hazardous. So both sides have the action, him alone, to do things like ensnare, um, and harness the ley lines, search the ruins, like anywhere you need ski markers, this crew is going to be able to kind of get that for you. Um, and then if you go with Linlai Storyteller, you're actually getting a pretty durable side of the crew that can tank and spank pretty well. Bringing in Story Suzaku, which has some healing on a trigger, um, and then all story models gaining the demise the story goes on, which is a once per turn when this model would be killed. It may discard a card to heal 3 on every story model. So basically, your crew at that point, when you're bringing her, is going to have that, which just makes it difficult to chew through them. Other couple special callouts is the story of Sun Wukong has a secondary means of immortality, the 7 means of immortality to be precise, which is if he manages to be killed before the start of turn 4, at the start of turn 4, he was hired, he gets to come back as a summon and not gain a slow token. So he just gets a full activation turn 4, even if he is already dead. In general, this crew is going to be one that can run any strategy and run a good flexibility of play styles, because you can play highly aggressive, you can play controlling. They got a lot of offensive movement shenanigans you can do, and they can just run around and ignore your opponent and scheme. Like, if you want to find a keyword that you can try out a couple of different ways or play any different kind of way, the red library, other than being also amazing, beautiful models, because it can do so much, you're not going to find faults with it. You'll be able to usually find it to a way that suits your play style. So give them a shout, give them a try, and find out why scheming is the name of the game. Next up, we're going to be talking about the People's Champion Mei Fang and the Foundry keyword. Aesthetically and fluff-wise, we're going to be talking about the Railroad Workers Union and the People's Champion that is Mei Fang. It is all about camaraderie. It is similar to the MNSU, just on the Thunder side, and it is going to be very, very much about standing together, which was a big deal. And fluff-wise, if you listen to some of the stories on the Breach side broadcast, you would get that as well. And there's some pretty good ones. There's even one that there's innuendo that Mei Fang and Ivan may have had a thing. But getting back to what this keyword is all about, their kind of mechanic is going to be based around scrap markers, making and using them. Starting off with the Sentinel of Steel and Loyalty Revitalized, they have kind of a flashback to older editions where they have Ride the Rails tactical action. Very thematic. You're going to be laying down the railroad tracks. So you're going to place next to a scrap marker and then place another scrap marker within 6 inches. and this is one that signature every Foundry model gets. So it can lead to some pretty good chain action movement where you're going to be able to lay a path down and get to where you need to go. It does take a 6 to go off, so it's not automatic, or it's going to be something you're going to need to, if you want it to go off, save a card or two for. And also needing to have that scrap marker out there initially, it's not as good as some of the other movement tricks that are out there. Switching over to Mayfang Foreman, this is the defensive side of the keyword. While it can have the scatter scrap action, it is using it to try to do damage, and then also a Soulstone trigger to pulse out shielded to allies. Further doubling down on the defensive aspect of Mayfang Foreman, she's going to bring Do the Work, where models with a shielded token receive a positive to all tactical actions, so a focus on shielded, and safety first. When this model activates, another friendly model within 3 making it gain a shielded. So it's another friendly. You're not going to be able to pop it on yourself, but it encourages banding together. And that's just all friendly Foundry models get it. It's not like it's tied to unique only. Looking at the masters themselves to kind of keep tying in with this, one is defensive, one is offensive, kind of locomotive can't be stopped. Mayfang Sentinel Steel has her Razor Claws, base 3 damage, and can spend a stone to add in 2 triggers regardless of what you flip. And she's got a trigger on every suit, stunned, rounding kick, coordinated attack, and a damaging reactive chemicals attack. Whenever she declares triggers, she gets to move. So, I'm just saying, she goes out there, she can love to beat the shit out of things. Mayfang Foreman, on the other hand, is going to come with armor. She's going to come with Hardened by Work, so when she activates, she can drain a Soul Stone to heal 3 and get rid of a token. So she's coming with a lot of that defensive tech on that side. The crew in general is going to kind of keep that railroad, theme. They got the Steelworkers, Willie, who's carrying around all the explosives, Neil Henry, which is a callback to maybe some legends that you may have heard out there, the Metal Golem, Kang, Forgeling, Rockhopper. So your constructs in, good old-fashioned hard-working steelworkers. They do everything pretty well. So if you're looking for a well-rounded crew, they're pretty well-rounded, but they're not going to be the best at anything. Getting back to why I'm saying that, mobility-wise, the Steelworkers themselves have Onward. It needs a 7, but it's not quite as good as the Benraku's Onward. And the other Ride the Rails action is also still going to need a 6 and a scrap marker in place. So like I said, they're good, but they're just not the best at everything. They're kind of the jack of all trades. I am good. I can bring this and kind of be competitive into everything. One of their downsides is that it usually takes their signature actions to get the scrap out. So you're having to use actions that you may want to use from your card, that third AP, from your models to be able to go ahead and get that scrap into place that you may need. So it's just something to keep in mind. They are good, and they can definitely pack a punch or be super defensive because they're going to, Foreman side's going to be around bolstered and shielded. Well, again, Mayfang Sentinel Steel is going to take that same crew and kind of turn it up with attacking in hypermobility, or attempt to be hypermobile. But in general, good at everything, not the best at anything, but a great crew all in all. Time to dive into the versatile models for the 10 Thunders. I do think they have a very, very good range of models, from tech picks to just solid scheme runners to a beater or two or a tanky model. So they can really fill out and complement whatever playstyle you're going for with whatever keyword you're going. I don't always find myself leaning into the versatile models much. However, when you need them, they are definitely there. To start off talking about some things, we're going to talk about the Emissary and Effigy. The Effigy comes with the fact that as with every crew, it gets the keyword, and then it specials the covered in shadow, so you can give out an aura concealment token that can be good if you are really looking to stop some of that ranged attacks against you, and really goes well even with melee ish. If they have long range, like 3-4 inch melee ranges, they can cause them to think twice about using that range. Um, the emissary on that side is just a solid 8 cost model. It does fit a toolbox of whatever you might need. It comes with an upgrade that can either give it flight, incorporeal, you can make it have dark bargain, so it really kind of suits whatever needs you might have. Moving on from that, you have the Sayori keyword, the mini keyword that's not a full keyword, that's versatile. Koji, the henchman of them, has healing energy, hard to kill, protection money, but he is kind of honestly there, but I won't probably see much play. Give him a shot, see what you think. Car, on the other hand, helps with mobility. She has been seeing some amazing options. However, I don't find her that much useful myself personally because most of the keywords already have a lot of that mobility in them. She is great. She can do wonders. Um, but she doesn't have that synergy with the actual keyword. She's not an actual ally. So last up are the Amai. The Amai have dependable, which can be a great way to bring in a little 3 cost hard to kill model that can stop your opponent from doing the interact action. Just make them waste AP, try to destroy your model before they get to actually do what they need to do. Um, a few call outs on some of the tech picks that are there for versatiles. First off, uh, big shout out to Minako Ray. She is going to be your bring in for any token heavy offensive crew. So if they're spamming a lot of slow or things that you can't really want to deal with, Manaka Ray is going to bring in that revitalize action for really low TN that can be able to remove said things and then also bring out some Katashiro as she's doing it. She comes with a little bit of movement with a natural speed, so she's not just sitting in one spot as well. Fuhatsu is still here. He's got a gun. He shoots things. He's all right. He's more flavored than anything. Yasunori, who's actually in the Ki and Gong keyword, is also versatile, and he has got a lot of that movement shenanigans that he can still bring in. He's got butterfly jump, flight, and he comes with an options for some upgrades as well. So he is actually a very solid contender again in this um, edition compared to maybe being a little bad in the last edition. Lust from the Crossroads 7 might actually be pretty good in the right circumstances. She has the option of bringing in those Craven tokens out of the blue if your opponent isn't expecting it. She's got offensive um, movement shenanigans and those Craven, which I will tell you, if you're planning on doing schemes and all of a sudden your opponent throws a Craven token on you, and on not one but 2 models for an action, it can be pretty devastating, especially for the stand in place ones that you have to be somewhere to score or count specific models. Um, Other than that, the versatiles, like I said, they're not going to be all stars in any keyword, but even like the 10 Thunders Brother is your 5 cost scheme runner. They have Expert Climber and Onward as their signature action. So they're going to be able to fill in with what you need. If you need that schemer, grab that 10 Thunders Brother. If you need a beater or a tank, go with the Obsidian Statue. If you need some offensive movement and some shenanigans, Lust is very controlling. Um, so see what you like. They have some great aesthetics to them, and hopefully they'll work out for you. Time for the spicy bits. A very early, very spicy take on the tier ranking of the 10 Thunders Masters. Now, I've done a little bit of reaching out to other 10 Thunders players, and I've seen some of the early tournaments over in the Cartographers Cup and Nova and some things, and my own vast kind of experience with the Thunder so far, with 30 plus games, not all of them at the end of beta, but quite a number of reps. I've played all the masters at this point, and so here it goes. With the S tier, and by S tier I mean pretty much you can go into any strategy and you're going to be happy. Um, I do think these are some of the stronger masters in the game, to be honest. Um, I think these are ones that you're going to see more often in competitive play as they really get out there and really get some practice. You'll definitely see it, but Lindley Storyteller, wildcard version of Lynch, and Shintaku are probably my. Shintaku's a dark horse to stay up there at S tier, but they just bring so much to the table. A ranking, they're gonna be good. Like, don't get me wrong, these are falling down, but it's like a quarter of a step. Um, so far, my experience with fourth edition has been that in general, there's masters, but there's not bad masters. So this was actually kind of hard to do, which is why you're seeing so many in the A tier list, because there's going to be a good time playing these masters. Uh, Lindley Billicary barely missed out on A tier, and that's just because she doesn't quite have the durability for every strat that you would need, but she can definitely out scheme almost every other possibility, because being able to just make your, models be able to interact at, or drop schemes, not even have to interact, but drop schemes at up to 6 inches away is amazing, because it gets around don't turn your back, because it's not interact action. Um, but I think falling in line, getting down below, Yuoko, Silk of the Lotus, Masaki, and Mei Fang. Sorry, Mei Fang, I put you at B and C. It's just because you're good at a lot of things. You can be strong, but I think when people figure out how she plays, she's going to be easier to counter with her offensive style, with ride the rails, needing those TNs, and needing to be very telegraphed where she goes. And Foreman is exceedingly strong defensive, but you're going to be limited in what strategy she can play in. You're really going to want to keep her and have a certain scheme pool kind of set up to really favor her over these other masters. Like, again, it's not that she's not good, it's just that she is kind of a tech pick into things. She is she's really good into this too. So that's what I'd take her in. While on the other hand, these other masters, you're going to have fun, usually no matter what, and extremely competitive, can do anything with the S tier. Uh, just taking a brief look, sorry, Masaki, you're just not stable enough to be at S tier. While I think she is hyper mobile and can scheme amazingly, Masaki 1, that is, the Oyuban version, and can get her on the table with ease, because she's a base 2 damage at Irreducible, she really comes down to the whims of the cards on how much damage you can do. It's no, I did a lot. It is based on I need to get the crit strike, I need to get my raises. She does a raise value of 3, but if your opponent has a good hand or is flipping hot, she's going to be stuck at that 2 Irreducible, which isn't amazing. She can get 4 attacks in a turn, but she really needs to get that damage up there a little bit to be chunking through those bigger models. She has a Toto, which can help her out, and a Ban Ying. But again, you're going to need to also be focusing on not staying in place, because her crew, other than Ban Ying, isn't durable. Even her defenses are built on getting the hell out of dodge. And her control version, unfortunately, is more limited. It is an obey master. You're going to need these TNs. It's a very high learning curve to really get her to work great. So she's down at B. I had a lot of fun with Yoko Unseen. So much movement shenanigans. They are kind of hard to stop, but they fall into the same category as Masaki, where you're going to run into issues staying long term. Bill is great, but Bill's got issues with his front of card ability. When your opponent scores schemes he can do in action, well, if those schemes are during the end phase or at the wrong time, then they're not scoring. He's not getting all of what he's good at. Jacob Lynch is dark bet, just doesn't have the hand uh, consistency that wild card does, and doesn't release that hand pressure off of you as much as the other version. And Shenlong is just good either way. I know he's down at the end of the A tier. And that's just because, honestly, I'm not sure where he's going to fully lie. He got a lot of changes. Same with Mei Fang up into the end of beta. So we're going to really see if he's going to go up and stay up, if someone's going to crack that code to use some amazing models, or if he's going to end up faltering down to some of the other tried and true things I'm already seeing working out there for Thunders. So yeah, spicy take. Sorry, Mei Fang, you were at the bottom. But if you're really looking to try out some really strong crews, I would start with Oni or Red Library. They are going to be the easier of the two. Jacob Lynch has a higher learning curve to really get the timing down for brilliance, and they're a little more bubbly at first. But once you get them, they are exceedingly strong. I think he is going to be that dark horse S tier that is going to see further on. Like, I know Linley's still popular right now, or Linlai. Sorry about the pronunciation. But I think you'll see these other ones as GG0 continues on. That is it for the 10 Thunders overview. I'm going to leave you with just some closing thoughts about the faction. Overall, I have a feeling competitively, if you want to do well, they're going to have a number of viable options, as you saw with the tier list. And I think some that are going to shake out later as being even better than I thought they were. And others will climb down, but time will tell on that. But casually speaking, they're just a lot of fun to play. I play 5 different factions on a regular basis, and I always stick with my 10 Thunders as my main faction because they are just very fun. Playing with Jacob Lynch and that brilliance keyword spamming out can be ridiculously fun. Mei Fang with riding the rails is so thematic and jumping around and beating face. Misaki is the same thing. There is just so much intrigue and interest and variety in the 10 Thunders that I think they will be able to provide a lot of entertainment and a lot of good play experiences for those who want to give them a shot. So dig down into that crime boss family of Misaki Katanaka and her cohort masters and give the 10 Thunders a shot. Let me know what y'all think. Have a great day and enjoy some LFO.